Chemistry Room Fragrances is the perfect addition when elevating the vibe of any space. Whether if it's your home, car, or office, and something needs a quick refresh, our room fragrances provide that beautiful burst of fragrance with just one quick mist. Shop now at www.chemistryroomfragrances.com and be sure to follow us on Instagram at Chemistry Room Fragrances. Chemistry Room Fragrances. Smells so good. Hey everybody, what's up? It's your girl Camille Essick. This is the host of the Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast where innovators and creators connect. We have a special guest. This is an historic interview. Before we get right into that, be sure to hit that notification bell, subscribe on my YouTube channel, and follow me on Instagram at Camille.Essick. And be sure to shop my website right now. Use the coupon code featured here below, GBM15, and save 15% at the checkout. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the 23rd International Grand Basileus of my sorority, the greatest sorority, Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority, Incorporated, Madam Grand Basileus Bonita Herring. Thank you for coming and sitting down with me, Soror. How are you doing?
I am doing very well. I'm doing well.
I'm so humbled to have you here. I have so many questions. But first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to sit down and join us here on the Speaker Podcast. You are a trailblazer in your own right. And so we're honored to have you here tonight on the show. So thank you.
Well, if I may, Sir Essick, I just want to say thank you to you because you have been an inspiration to me based on some words that you shared. As you know, and some do and some don't. My mom has had some health challenges, but she's doing okay. And I just thank you for the great words of support that you gave because we all need those words of support to help us through our day. So thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm smiling. I blush easily, so thank you so much. For those that don't know you, they know you as Grand Madam Basileus, but who is Soror Bonita Herring? Like, who is she?
Well, she is a daughter. She is a sister. She is a friend. She is a mother of a legacy, Siobhan Austin, who is a centennial uh, Ruby soror this year.
Wow.
Um, I have I am a proud cultured pearl. Having come into the sorority on June 27th, 1970. So I wear my crown as a cultured pearl
Yes.
proud. I have done a lot of things in the sorority. Some of you may remember me as the executive director of Sigma Gamma Rho for 23 years. And in 2007, I had served as the chapter Basileus, and some of my chapter sorors said, "Soror Herring, what are you going to do now?" And so I thought about it. I talked to some people, and decided to run for first Grand. And of course, that led to Grand Basileus.
That is so major. Like people don't understand. It's not like, running your local chapter, your grad chapter. This is the international organization. So going, having that process, because sometimes we feel like, can I really do this? Am I capable? Like, where were you mentally to even get to the point to say, you know what? I want to run the whole thing. Like, what took within you to push yourself to go past
Mm.
doubt or questioning your ability to believe in yourself enough to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to run.
Well, I think that no matter how much you've been involved in something or how much education you think you have,
Mm,
you always have a lot to learn.
yeah.
And so at a certain point, I had worked, again, I was executive director,
Hmm.
had worked with 7 women who led this organization, and I'd worked very closely with them. Now, that did not make me think I could do that because I saw what they did and I
Right.
saw what they went through, and I was in awe of what they did. However, at the point that uh, the sorors asked me, "What are you going to do next?" I had to have like some a talk with my family, a
Hmm.
talk with my village in the sorority, and of course, a talk with God
Of
about
course.
taking a next step. And so, with that, I said, I think I can do something to help our
Mm.
sisterhood. And if the sorors will have me, I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring.
I love it. So, can you touch on the importance of having that positive circle to reinforce your choices? Because you touched on not only talking to God, but your circle. And I think sometimes, we can have people in our circle like, girl, I don't know. And you really want to do that? But can you kind of touch on a little more the importance of having that supportive circle to say, girl, you can do it, go for it, we support you? Because I think sometimes we need to be around people, or we do need to be around people that can see us on the next level and not just see us here, like where we are right now, but to see
Yes.
us as the next version, the 2.0 of ourselves.
That is huge, and that is something that has kept me, I think, involved with sorority
Hmm.
because I have been, I'm not going to say lucky enough because I know that it happens all around, but I've been with women who lift you up, who say, you've done this and you can do a little more. That
Yeah.
was even the reason that I thought about it. So I think it's always important. If I didn't say it before, I am a lifelong educator, lifelong learner. And I think it's important to um, listen, because people can tell you things that will make you grow.
Yes.
And so I have always tried to be, and I'm not going to say always, because I'm sure sometimes I wasn't. Let me move my mouse. But there have been times when I'll just say that people have told me things, and I've listened, and it's really helped me to make it to the next level.
I
So
love it. So you mentioned, I guess you will be third generation SGRho. Like, what inspired you? You say you're a legacy, but what we see legacies, then you see people that go other routes. But what really drew you into the organization?
um, I attended the University of Illinois, and University of Illinois Circle campus, and there was not a lot of Greekdom.
Mm,
And so, first of all, let me just say that at the time I became a member, the whole recruiting process was different. And we had a metropolitan chapter because there really weren't enough on our campus for a chapter. But I went to the University of Illinois. We had support groups on that campus. And so, in that support group, there were two women that I kind of gravitated towards, and one was Marilyn Vaughn Barnes. She's now deceased,
Okay.
but she kind of supported me, and as a freshman on campus and everything. And there was another uh, young woman, Maggie Pfeiffer, at that time, and they were both members of Sigma Gamma Rho. And so it just so happened that, I was invited to, at that time, it was a rush. And so I went to the rush, and I wasn't sure, what I would find, but I found um, women that I think took care of business and had fun. And that sold me. They talked about the projects, they talked about what they did for the community and the volunteerism. And then I went to a step show and I saw them step. And I said, that's for me. And when I went to the rush, they sang a song that is To More Love that I still remember today. And it was just kind of make up your mind, don't hesitate, pledge now, don't wait. Sigma can belong also to you. And I felt like they were speaking to me.
I absolutely love it. Um, those that don't know, Sigma Gamma Rho, this is our centennial year. We were founded in November 12th, 1922 at Butler University in Indianapolis, Indiana. And there are so many contributions that we call the D9 or the Divine Nine, the nine organizations have made to not only Black history, but American history. But I think some people don't really realize how major the contributions have been. So, Soror Herring, can you kind of touch on the importance? Some people don't see the relevance of the organizations today. They see on social media just the step and the strolling the parties or whatever. But really, what is the work of the organization and what it means to us as Black people in the community?
I think I was fortunate enough to, or have been fortunate enough to see the business side of the sorority and the fun side of the sorority. Having worked for the sorority for 23 years, I saw a number of things that our sorority did and other organizations through the Panhellenic Council. So I will say that there's a lot of things that are done. There are a lot of giving back, a lot of support of our youth. For example, Sigma Gamma Rho has the Rower Club, but I know that other organizations have clubs for youth. And that's a really important thing now. I mean, we know in our communities it's important to lift as you climb and make sure that you are reaching back and touching the youth. So that's huge to me. Support of our rowers, and I know other organizations have that. I think the political thing has become pretty big, and when I say political, organizations cannot lobby, and we cannot have a lot of involvement in politics, but individually we can hear information. And I think sororities have been, well, our sorority, I know, and other organizations have been instrumental in coming together and saying, this is information. And so even though we can't lobby, we can't do certain things, we know that your community dollar is managed by the representatives, your mayor, your congressperson. So I think those kinds of things are very important.
Very true, Soror. I want to say June, not that long ago, I was able to go to the African American Museum of History in Washington, D.C. with some of my cousins. We all went, and they had a whole section on the D9 and their
Mm.
contributions throughout history into this culture as far as civil rights. And just to see it in that perspective, as far as leadership that we've had, people that we know, some we don't, as far as across the board with all organizations, but just see this entire section of the sororities and the fraternities and the history and the faces and the names there's so many people when you look at like Thurgood Marshall, Alpha Phi Alpha, Martin Luther King, or Zora Hurston, she was a member of Zeta Phi Beta, or we look at Hattie McDaniel, she was the first Black woman to win an Academy Award, which is also one of our sorors. We look at MC Light, another soror, and people that have really made moves in every industry as far as politics, religion, science, math, you name it, and we're there as part of the D9. So to see that, even, now our Vice President Kamala Harris, she's a member of AKA. So to see that we're moving the needle, that we're showing up in these spaces, and that we're using our spaces and our seat to open the door for people like us and to make a mark in history, I think is very important. And we also have to continue to debunk some of the myths as far as what it is, but versus what it really means. So I definitely appreciate your response on that.
Thank you. And that's a beautiful place. I've been there, and it is a beautiful place to go to see the history and to see what organizations have done. I've just had the opportunity to go through to some other organization events. And of course, our centennial had a lot of history. So, yes, it lets us know what happened and whose shoulders we stand on.
Very true, very true. So you mentioned that you came through in the 70s. Take us back. Like, what was going on at that time, just in the world and culturally, as far as us as a people, as Black people, and even in Greek life during that time period?
Well, coming into the sorority, I became a member, as I said, in June of 1970. And so there was unrest on campuses. In fact, my freshman year, I can't remember the exactly, but 4 students I think were shot by National Guard on an Ohio campus. So they actually had to close down school at the end of my freshman year in college. Um, and so, as far as sorority, those sorors now who were pledging then had to all come home. So in Chicago, at the end in June, we ended up with a lot of women who had started their process in the spring, and they had to complete it in a different location. Well, in Chicago, which is where most lived, because they had 4 students, as I said, that were killed on campus, and they had so much unrest. So there was a lot of unrest. There was a lot of political things going on, just like now, I'll say, but there were a lot of campuses that rebelled about things going on, and that's why they had the shooting on the campus.
Yeah.
There was, as far as the whole process for pledging, and I know we don't pledge anymore, but we did then.
What is that? I don't know what you're talking about.
I went to a rush. I was invited to a rush, as I mentioned, by these 2 women, and there was a process after that where we had gametes and we had auroras, and we became after that members of the organization. So it was a different process. I'm not going to get into that because
no, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah. I did want to touch on back in the 70s because I don't think a lot of people understand for historical context what was going on at that time, because you have to remember the country. We have seen the Kennedys, 2 of the brothers, Robert and John, assassinated. Then you have the assassination of Martin Luther King. And Malcolm X, and you're also dealing with coming out of Vietnam, women's rights, liberation, protests, Woodstock, gas out was going on. So by the time 1970 hit, culturally, there was a lot going on within the society. Also, I feel like was assassination, the murder of Sam Cooke. There's a lot that us as Black people, where we were by the time 1970 hit. Then you have James Brown, I'm Black and I'm Proud. So there's definitely a cultural shift going on when we look at 50s, 60s, and then boom, 1970. And then the unrest, I think, was Kent State, where the shooting took place, where they killed.
That was it.
And so that was major. And we have the National Guard coming in. So now you have, and then in 1968, here comes Iota Phi Theta on the scene in the middle of all this unrest. So culturally, as Black people, we were in a very tumultuous place. We think that this is serious now with, which it is, with Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. But imagine watching leadership, people that we've looked up to, be murdered, you know, in front of our faces, and there was no repercussion. Medgar Evers, another one that was killed as well. The March in Selma. So all this stuff led up to 1970. So put that in perspective, and then you have young, vibrant, passionate students on campus.
I think I'll say all organizations have been involved in that struggle, in that fight for equality. I'll say, and it's a never ending. When I think about things like when we go back to 1922 in our Sorors, I mean, just think of what they had to endure. When we talk about the Ku Klux Klan had a cell right down the street,
Black
but these
women.
Black women going to
These
right.
young Black women standing toe to toe with the Klan in 1922, in the 20s.
And the Grand Wizard had a home very close to the campus. I mean, there was so many things going on, and they had to pass through these areas. They had to deal with this, and they were getting their education during a time when women were not really supposed to get an education, especially Black women.
Exactly.
So, but they fought to do what they needed to do, and these women not only got bachelor's degrees, they got master's degrees, and they would have had PhDs then had there not been the same, if things had been equal for everyone, But uh, coming through the years, when you talk about Iota Phi Theta and how they were when they were founded, I think a lot of the founding was even based on some of the unrest. We're not comfortable with this. We're going to band together and make some changes. And I think that's why I find sisterhood and sorority um, so important. I find the unity is very important for us all, not only for that, not only for unrest, but just as for sorority, women coming together to deal with day to day issues. When I was younger, taking care, when my daughter was growing up, I had, a circle of friends. Before I had my daughter, there was a circle, in the sorority. So there's always been some part of the sorority that's been supportive, or at least I've looked for it, I'll say, and I think we can all find it, when we gather our circle of sisters, and we find out we are more alike than different. And so when we come together and we talk, and we honestly talk with each other and share, it takes a little vulnerability sometimes, but I think we all have things that we deal with. So
Very true.
that's the strength of sorority and sisterhood.
Very true. I think one of the things, Soror Herring, that is so important.
Sorry.
Come from Sam Washington. Come from Sam Washington.
Sorry, I forgot about that phone.
Come
Okay.
from Sam Washington.
Sorry
No,
for
it's
the
okay.
interruption.
One of the things I think is so important, and one of the things I've noticed about anytime I meet a member of our organization, because we're so aware of the origin of our founders and what they had to go through, I won't say no one is. Everyone's passionate about the organization, but because of our unique history, because we're the only sorority that was not founded in an HBCU, and because of what our founders went through as far as dealing with the Klan during that time, we have to me, I feel like a greater tenacity or passion for our organization because we're aware of that in the back of our minds. and as far as how we push for the sorority, how we go hard for the sorority, how much we love the sorority, how much we love each other, because we know the standards we stand upon are the shoulders of Black women in the Midwest in the 1920s, dealing with the Klan, when a place where women, but not only Black women, were told, hey, you don't even have the right to read, but here you are getting a bachelor's degree. And I think that is so major.
I agree. I didn't know that when I first decided to become a member, but the more I learned about these founders, I always felt that they are very strong women, and I've always wanted to, or considered myself a strong woman, but I never had to deal with anything like what they've dealt with.
Right.
But I just admire them for their strength. I admire them for being strong at a time where, uh, the right to, as you say, the right to read and write, the right to vote, those were all challenges for them that they dealt with, things that we take for granted. So to overcome and to just move forward and say, we're going to, and I think that might be part of the reason they came together on a campus. They came together and said, we're going to help each other. We're going to lift each other up.
I love it. So, shifting gears here, we've been pushing as we are in our centennial year to build activation, reactivation. Life happens. I was inactive for a period of time because after undergrad and joining corporate America, I joined the military of all things. I joined the Navy. So getting deployed and being on different ships and being moved around, I lost touch with my organization because now it wasn't about my organization. It was about serving my country, wearing the uniform and the boots every day. And life happens, and I get it. Some, illnesses. There's so much going on. So, Herring, can you speak to those watching as far as if they're considering reactivating or even joining, as far as navigating that space of transition to think, oh, I've been away so long and I don't know, and I feel so out of the loop, and just reconnecting with their chapter or grad chapter in their city?
Sure. At the Boulay, I actually had the esteemed pleasure to address sorors that reactivated and came back to the sisterhood. And I consider Sigma Gamma Rho like a second home. It's been there. And just like at home, you think of a place, as they say, with like the record, with love of overflowing. So you think about, I mean, there's some bad experiences you may have had, but just like with home, there are things that are not always the way you want them to be. I think that one of the things I think about is love, the love of sisterhood, and um, just like you have love for your sisters, and I'm not sure if you have any sisters. I have two, but these are my extended family sisters. I have sorors that of course, I've been in here much longer, have known for over 50 years.
Wow.
And it's family. So I would just say if anybody is not active, thinking about being active, um, whatever your situation is, um, first of all, I think the organization, we individually have to, in chapters, because I was membership chair in my chapter. One of the things I always said is when you think about coming back, you might not be able to be as active as some others. Don't worry about that. Do what you can to connect. And to the members of the chapter, reach out and connect to sorors. They may not be able to attend everything. They may not even be able to at first year pay dues, but maybe you can invite them to things and they can start coming out to things. So again, I consider Sigma Gamma Rho a second home. I consider it a place where you can find love and support. And it's not perfect. Nothing is perfect. But I do believe that when we open up and we're frank and I'll say vulnerable. You do have to be vulnerable. You can find something that is very comfortable for you and very good. If you reach to your sisters, and your sisters in turn, we all have a responsibility to welcome those that want to reactivate. And for those that are thinking about reactivating, just let us know.
I love it. I know when I moved here, I got out of the military, and I want to say like 6 or 7 weeks, right when I got into Charlotte, the pandemic hit, and it was like the world just closed up. And
Mhm.
then once things started opening up, I was like, man, I'm in this city. I'm in Charlotte by myself. I don't know anybody here. And I was like, man. So the first thing I did was I got on Facebook, and I was like, I know there's some SGRhos here. Let me find them. And I started to, slowly kind of reach out. And I was like, man, I forgot. This is cool. It all came back, and
Mhm.
so earlier this year, I reactivated and joined Beta Omicron Sigma here in the Queen City. So shout out to the Queen City SGRhos. And I'm slowly starting to get to know everyone there. We just had an event this past weekend, the Soror Way. It was really good, and connecting with some Sorors here in the city. So I'm really excited. The gala for Centennial is coming up this year, so I'm looking forward to that red carpet event, and it's feeling good. So I'm absolutely loving it. Definitely loving it here in Charlotte now.
Well, I'm going to say a shout out to the military sorors because uh, you were phenomenal. You're all of the military sorors at the Boulay. That was phenomenal to see all of those sorors just come into the room. That was, it shows that Sigma Gamma Rho is
We're
reaching
everywhere.
out. We're everywhere.
We are
We're everywhere.
worldwide. We are worldwide, literally. And one thing I want to say, whether you're SGRho, a Kappa, Q, being in the military in Greek, it's its own little thing within itself, because not only do we understand wearing the uniform, but then we had that connection of being D9 as well. And I remember all the time, like driving around on base, and I would see Kappa plates or some Q plates, and we would like flag each other down, like, hey, just to have that D9 love. It was so great having that connection, because I'm a PK, so coming into the military, that was a culture shock within itself. But to see another D9 member in uniform, that was awesome. Like having that, it felt like home, because they got me and I got them, and we had that understanding, and I love that.
Well, I can kind of understand that situation, not totally, but I had the opportunity to go to Germany with Central Region when they were reactivating a chapter where sorors were in the service, and the everyone that came out from the Panhellenic groups. I mean, it was like they were family. I mean, it's like we're so far away, but we're family here.
Yeah,
And it's like that. Oh, that's a AKA. That's a Delta. That's a But they were all family. So I can see how you had that bond. I mean, being away from home and everything, and
yeah,
that's really great. I think that's a strength of being a part of a Greek organization.
yeah. I have a funny story. So one of my close friends from like undergrad, he's an Alpha, and he joined the Air Force, and I was so nervous and so afraid about going to boot camp, and I was just like, oh my god. He called me one day. He was like, hey, and I was like, what? He was like, remember we were online? And I was like, yeah. He said, that's boot camp. And I was like, oh. So when I got to boot camp and there were people crying and falling out, I'm sitting over here like, this
You
is
already
nothing.
know. You got this.
It was okay. It was a piece of cake. And they were like, Essex, why are you not crying? And I was just like, this is nothing. And I don't care what people say. One day it was just rough. And I found myself repeating a poem. And Invictus and poem and don't quit. It comes in handy. Trust. It got me through boot camp. Period.
That's
And we're,
what
and we're gonna shift the conversation because we're not gonna go down that rabbit hole. But yeah,
okay.
yeah. So before we wrap up, Sora Herring, I always ask my guests to drop maybe a gem or two as nuggets of wisdom that you would like people to think about or take with them um, before we close things out.
Well, first of all, I need to do a couple of commercials. One, definitely I need to just say hi or, lift up the Sorors in Chicago, Delta Sigma chapter. They have been my rock. And Delta Sigma chapter, where we have the royal standard of sisterhood. So, hi to any Delta Sigma Sorors that might be online, and, just thank you to you for being my support system through the years for anything that I've done in the sorority. As far as little pieces of wisdom, I think that, first of all, I continue to say that, I'm a lifelong educator, lifelong learner. And I think in my personal life, being working in education has just been it's been a joy to me because I love seeing what happens with the students. I worked before I recently retired with student teachers. And so it was always great to see them go into schools and prepare to become teachers. And some were ready for teaching and some needed a little bit more help. But it was always so rewarding to see what happened. But the other part of it was there were some cases where they shared information and it taught me something. So I think that's always been something that's been on my heart, that you have to, no matter how old you are, be willing to learn. The other thing is, I'm going to hold up this mug as far as a little nugget of, I don't know if it's wisdom, but it's something that keeps me going. It was given to me by my daughter and my granddaughter, and it says on the cup, and it's gold. Uh, to Sunshine Mom, Sunshine Grandma. That's what they call me because I think you always have to keep some sunshine in your life, even when things are not going well. As I told you at the beginning, I thank you for all of the prayers and everything you've offered, but I try to keep going. And the cup says, "Don't let anyone dull your sparkle. Leave a little sparkle wherever you go." And so I think that um, that has been something that I keep in mind. I think we always have to lift ourselves up and lift others up because it's important. You talked about our communities. For us to thrive as communities, we have to know that, yeah, we've got to keep going. Things are not always going to be perfect, but we can definitely lift others up and help them along, and they will lift us up. So that's
Absolutely.
what I can share at this point because that's basically helped me through a lot of different situations.
I absolutely love that, Sora. First of all, I'm just humbled and honored, like I said at the beginning, to have you here. It's been absolutely amazing connecting with you offline and now online and just sharing your journey with us. I know the Soras appreciate it, and I hope other ladies appreciate it. So, with that being said, if you are inactive, girl, what are you waiting for? Come on back. If you're thinking about joining, we would love to have you. There is a process, but hey, check out your local chapter of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. And with that being said, Sor, Herring, where can people connect with you on social media?
Well, I have I'm on Facebook, and that's probably the end of my social media. But I'm under Bonita Herring on Facebook.
Okay.
Um, as you probably know, I don't answer messenger very quickly.
True old school. You might send a message and shoot right back like a week later. I'm like, where is Sor Herring at? Where is Grand Madam? Now I know.
I have not been on Facebook a lot lately, so my
But when you're out,
apologies.
you're out. Because I was like, she kicking more than I do. But now wait a minute.
But I get on there from time to time and I try to catch up with things. But Soror, let me just say, one of the reasons I even decided to come on, because sometimes people say, what's going on? I love when young sorors come up with ideas and things that they want to do. Thank you to you for even doing this, because you're an inspiration to myself and to definitely other young sorors. So thank you for just coming on and putting all this together, because I know it's not easy. So
I'm humbled by that. I feel like we have spaces, and as us as Black women, we have the ability. We can be a thermostat or a thermometer. There's a lot of
mm,
people complaining, but what are you doing to change the narrative? So instead of just reporting a situation, let's change the situation. How can we move the needle? How can we open the door to have communication? My master's is in communication, and I started.
same here, communications and training.
Come on now. Won't he do it?
So we have something. See, like I told you, we always have something in common.
Yeah,
If we talk, we find out more and
very
more.
true. But I think we need to create spaces where we can communicate in a way that's healthy, in a way that's open, without judgment, and transparent. Where innovators and creators connect. That is my tagline. As for the show, it is a space where innovators and creators can connect. And I think sometimes we're so focused on just our immediate circle, but you need to reach, beyond where we are right now and reach back to those that have opened the door and paved the way for us. Um,
Yes.
and by you being a past Grand Basileus of the sorority, I felt that you had a lot to offer as far as value to this conversation from a historical context, not only just because it's our
Thank you.
senior year, but just as a Black woman that walks in the past and stands on the shoulders, with your mother and those before you in the sorority, and just within the Black community. So I thought it would be befitting to have you here as a guest on the show. So
Well, thank you. I want to add one other thing. I don't know how our time is going,
sure, go ahead.
but as far as we talked about, sorority and women. I think sometimes women working together, some women back away from sorority, and some even talk about, they're a little reluctant to come back to the sisterhood because somebody said something and somebody made me feel uncomfortable. I I've always felt that there's room for all of us, and whatever we have to offer. So, not that I'm perfect, because I'm definitely not, but I think that there's room for all of us to shine, as the cup says, to sparkle. So I think we all just need to make sure that there's room in our circle, in our chapters, for everybody that wants to come back. And that sometimes means that we have to look at things a little differently and be a little bit more accepting of what another idea is. Because something I think, if somebody's upset about something, I say it's not that important, but it is to them. So I have to be understanding of that. So there's room for all of us. There's room for all of us to get things done.
I totally agree. And I always say, if it's something you don't like, change it, or you be the change, that you change the tone of that space. Um, Silas and Friend Racondius, he made a comment. I did a show last year, and he said something that's really stuck with me. It's like, to be unapologetic and bring all of yourself into the room. Like, bring all of you into the room and let everyone adjust. And bringing yourself into the room means bringing all your gifts, your anointings, your skills, your SKAs, the PKIs, whatever the acronym is. Bring all of that into the room, because it definitely can enhance. But how can it grow if you're not in the space to do so? So, yeah.
And I will just say that one of the things, when you were asking about who is Bonita Heron, I love music. I love music and I love to travel. I like the music you were playing.
Thank you.
that I was listening to before the show. So
Thank you. Oh, okay. So who are your top 5 artists?
well, most people know that Prince was like, oh yes, he's gone, but I wanted to go see him, but yeah, Prince was like number one.
Okay.
Earth, Wind, and Fire, who I did get to see.
The Elements. We have the purple one. We have the Elements. Who else?
I mean, like I have to go back. Gladys Knight, Aretha Franklin, of course, the Queen of Soul. I did get to see her at Ravinia before she passed. I mean, it's just I like a number of genres, so I'll go to somebody like even Michael McDonough, So I mean, it's not just
We're gonna wrap it up because they're blowing your line up. Somebody wants to talk to you.
I see. I think those are spam calls. But
anyway. Calls, we hate those. But with that being said, I do want to say thank you so much, Soror Herring, for connecting with us here. For those that if you missed this live episode, you can catch the replay on my YouTube channel and subscribe. I'm now streaming in continental Africa on AfriPods. I'm on Pandora, iHeartRadio, and other streaming platforms. So go to my website at CamilleEssig.com to find those links there, and follow me on Instagram at Camille.Essig. And with that being said, everybody, this is the Speaker Podcast, the podcast with innovators and creators connect. Join me next week. Another guest as we wrap up the month of August, a familiar face, so you know it's gonna be live. Everybody have a great night. Be blessed. Peace.
Good night.
Good night.